So for the final moment of today's meeting and of actually the whole project mapping best practices for youth-friendly cities, we are here about to present you our final outcomes. The whole project was about finding out like general framework on how to support youth friendliness of the cities and what dimensions should we use, what criteria we should imply, how to measure it, how to look at it, how to support municipalities to do that. And we had to start with defining what does it mean a youth-friendly city, what does it mean a quality youth services. So looking at the core documents regarding youth work and youth policy, you'll see like summary of those definitions at the beginning of the publication, and the publication can be accessed on your programs through the QR code. And this is the link to the full outcomes that we have come up with. And this publication includes, intro chapter in which all the terms, important terms and quality developments in youth work are explained. And this basically means that, youth-friendly cities are those in which young people can have access and have rights, and actually it's happening, to have a good life and opportunities, no? Where municipality addresses young people as important part of the society, and where young people have things to do, where to go, somebody to support them. So all those measures are implied, where the youth work is functioning, recognized and in place, and youth policy is organizing it, so giving it the structure. Okay, so without any more prolongation, let's go to the dimensions of youth-friendly cities that we have come up with. First dimension, there are 5 of them. No? We had clustered them in the most important aspects of youth work and youth policy functioning. First one is the youth participation. It's not without a coincidence with the number 1. It's quite fundamental, as also all our partners discussed and defined, that with no participation of young people, with no inclusion of their voice and their presence in the process of creation of the youth policy and youth-friendly city, we cannot even talk about youth-friendly city. You know? Without that, this is the fundament. And how do we define that? A youth-friendly city is the city where youth participation is taking place, so where young people have a right to be equal participants in strategic and current decision making. So there are structures, and it's actually happening that young people are part of the decision making bodies. And inside of that, we defined 5 sub-standards which are important to implement to develop youth participation dimension in the youth-friendly city. And one of it, I didn't know that this opens. First of all is the communication and information. So along the statement that without informing young people about their rights, about possibilities, opportunities, there is no participation. No? So firstly, full and coherent information regarding rights and possibilities. So first substandard is how city communicates and informs young people about processes happening inside, about policy making, about youth policy making, and information that they have right to, and possible criteria to assess or measure to what extent the city is youth-friendly, friendly communicating with young people, would be, for example, that the communication channels are run in a way that young people can understand, no? So in the language that is accessible to young people, and also channels that young people are in already. No? So we're not engaging young people to be somewhere else than they are already, but this is happening where they are. Language of communication is adjusted, or digital media are regularly updated, or the city actively reaches out to young people. So all that regards communication and information. Also, a city should participate in delivery of youth information services, no? So that the youth information is somehow organized and coordinated, and we believe that this is the municipality that should do that. And what more, the city should provide an umbrella structure for youth organizations and youth structures for networking, for communication, so that this information and communication runs and circulates along the ecosystem, and not only one-sided, like from the municipality to young people and from young people to the municipality, so that this the circle or a network functions on its own, and the city providing an umbrella. In a second, I will present it all, and keep in mind any comments or questions. We will open the debate regarding all 5 of those dimensions. So the second substandard of youth participation, we're still in the page 1. There are 5 of substandards. Is that there is a strategic orientation on youth. And there was a big debate among the partners where to put this dimension. And what does it mean, the strategic orientation? It, for example, means that a city has a strategy of development that encompasses a youth dimension. So either there is a youth strategy on its own, or the city strategy has a clear division in which young people are target and a topic, no? Where the city has the youth component. So this youth field is recognized by the city in different ways. The concrete criteria in which this can be achieved can be decided by the municipalities, by the cities, by communities. But having that as a topic is quite essential. Also, there are young people and youth representation bodies are present in co-creation of the strategy. So the strategic orientation on youth is also including young people in the strategic processes of the city. So thinking about the future of the city should include young people in their bodies. Also, that all municipal activities are cohesive, no? So that there is a plan, there is a strategy, there is action plan, there is a coordination measures, and everything that is happening with young people, for young people in the city is cohesive, no? So it corresponds with one another, and is also cohesive with the other levels of administration. So the local youth strategy is corresponding with the regional one, with the national one, and this one with the European. This is everything that Bruno and Vanya were actually also mentioning. So we embrace that, like, this is one of the standards, no? That youth strategy is embedded in a way of thinking as well about the young people. Third sub-standard is that dialogue and decision-making process includes young people as a fully fledged participants and equal participants of the decision-making process. And young people can have a say in the distribution of the public finances. For example, co-creating the strategies, also participating in a municipal participatory budget, and so on and so forth. So we have also a list of possible criteria to measure it, but the dialogue and decision-making process with young people has to be in place. Fourth one, I'm speeding it up a little bit, is the approach of human rights, inclusiveness and equality, and this is absolutely important, also in the context of crisis situations, also Russian invasion of Ukraine right now, that all the young people that are present in the city have rights and are included equally, on equal basis, in the processes of decision making. So young people are addressed in public policies and are included in the creation of them. And another standard could be also that the city is actively preventing social inclusion. So this problem is addressed, no? That we're preventing social inclusion, marginalization, we're fighting with prejudices, especially xenophobia, racism, sexism, all that, no? So the city recognizes it and adopts a human rights approach. in order to take any actions against it. One of the sub-segments of human rights approach would be also using sensitive language in the public sphere, and perhaps one of the criteria could be having a public authority or officer that is monitoring it and preventing it or fighting against it. So in this way, the city is actively addressing the problems. Also, well, basic stuff, like city infrastructure, public buildings are adapted to the needs of all the groups, including people with disabilities, and of minors, migrants, refugees, so in terms of language, in terms of architecture and the facilities. That's also important, so I'll mention it. Young people in a situation of violence or discrimination and injustice have an institution to turn to. Also, some kind of ombudsman could be existence of one could be a criteria of this standard. Well, acknowledging youth rights or child rights is another. It's a basis, lies the basis of all that. And the last substandard of youth participation. This is the longest one, so don't be frightened. As a social and cultural participation. So not only well, youth participation includes the participation in decision making, that refers to four first sub-dimensions, but also social and cultural participation. So access to culture, access to have to possibilities of creating social bonds, integrating with the society, and so on. So one of these tasks or activities for the municipality in this regard would be to take into account possible economic barriers or any other barriers of young people to access society and culture in designing youth services, and also providing structures and schemes for social participation and engagement in the life of the community in different ways. For example, youth spaces, youth centers, public spaces friendly to young people, or concrete structures or schemes for organized integration. So that's the first out of 5, dimensions in which cities can develop youth friendliness. The second one, and that's the second slide, is health and well-being. This has lower amount of sub-segments. It's more to the point. This is the competences of not only the municipalities but states and other entities. But what the youth-friendly city has to do with this regard is, for example, monitoring health-related situation of young people living in the city. So having a knowledge about what is the situation of mental state or health level in general of young people, and react to the problems. So the municipal support of maintaining general health and well-being. It could be addressing concrete problems like behavioral addictions, the things that are quite current right now, or mental health issues, or using substances, or eating disorders, sleep patterns, violence, abuse, sexual health, all that. I don't know with the different countries, but in Poland a couple of years ago, the only focus of youth policy was to prevent abuse of alcohol and drugs. So that's actually one of the things that municipalities already developed structures. But we would encourage to look at it as a sub-segment of the general sphere, dimension that is called health and well-being in general, and sexual health, mental health is there, and let's not forget about that. The other activity would be, or the standard to fulfill would be that the city addresses detected problems and the needs of young people regarding health in supportive and non-stigmatized way. So that's a shift of attitudes that has to take in place, and that's very difficult to measure. So when for monitoring of this standard development, we would have to adapt the measurement ways to the actual activities and municipalities that are doing that. Another one, young people have access to psychological support and information where to turn to. Or the city can also promote a parental knowledge about those things. So instead of maybe when not having the structures or capacities to do that, like to work directly with young people on that, the sufficient measure would be to promote a parental knowledge about mental health, sexual health, and health care in general, so that working with parents could be a way. And well, health education. That's what we have listed in this dimension. Another one, the third one, is support in achieving economic independence. No? And this has become not only a minor part of the framework, but a quite important element of getting autonomy by young people, having financial autonomy, or at least a promise of financial autonomy. So what city, taking into account their competences, can do in this regard is to maintain, facilitate the communication or information flow regarding the labor market needs or requirements, like trends, no? So that the advisory activities could be in place. Or another thing, and that's also very important, the city might protect the quality of employment of young people, quality of internships, quality of practices made, and so on, so that this covers the need of providing the transition into the labor market, but taking into account that municipality don't have a competency over this whole field. This is like free market as well, having something to say in here, but the municipality can provide at least the quality of offers. And also supporting youth entrepreneurship, no? That corresponds with the argument of why do we need the youth policy in the city to boost the economy, no? So that to keep young people interested in the city as a place of living and working, no? So that the economic growth can happen. That's it for the support in achieving economic independence. There are also a list of criteria that we have come up with that can be useful. And almost the last one is the urban planning. And that's quite vague formulation, but it's infrastructure, and sub-segment is the urban planning. And in here, the recommendations for the standards would be quite far-reaching. So, for example, the city is investing in creation and revitalizing green areas, considering the needs of young people. No? This was detected as one of the needs and problems of young people to have access to good environment, no? So to safe and protected environment inside of the city, and that the life can also happen in the green areas. So the development of those can be part of the youth policy as well. So far, I guess it's the different department matter, no? But it has something to do, a lot to do with the youth policy and development of the youth. Also, that the urban planning aims at minimalizing negative impact on climate. It's very important to young people. That young people have access to all parts of the city in the sustainable way, so public transportation investment, housing infrastructure, no? Another dimension of getting autonomy and independence by young people. Institutions of culture are accessible and approachable to young people, and also accessible to so they can afford it. Access to internet in public places, another matter of the urban planning. Public transportation, parking lots, green transportation, cycling infrastructure, pedestrian crossing, all the architecture of the city that, while designing it and building or revitalizing, young people should be present in that process, considering the fact that they are using the city in a different way than cars and adults or seniors, no? So that the city facilities and architecture can be also adapted to the youth needs. And youth spaces is a part of infrastructure topic. Well, a basic thing, youth centers, so the public spaces where young people can meet, can develop their ideas, like implement their ideas, where the concept is open and free, and this is non-commercial space. There is a support system inside of it. Well, we know the concept of the youth centers, no? But some countries don't. They have to be also widely accessible, safe, co-managed with young people, and directed to all young people regardless of their conditions, any conditions, no gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, level of disability or ability, and any other conditions. And the last one, I'm coming to an end. Conditions for learning and development, education and youth work. This is something that in Cluj strategy is called youth work ecosystem. So all the support system for young people to develop in terms of education and youth work. So in here we have support of education system, of its quality, of its monitoring, that municipality have a system for youth work as well, and condition for that is that the youth work is actually recognized. And this is also not a standard in all the countries. That there's an organization, structures, budgets for the youth activities based on this strategic approach. And possible criteria in that matter would be that there is a youth department, that there is a certain amount of budget dedicated, that city facilitates youth mobilities and exchanges with partner cities, so we stay in connection. And all this support system entities, institutions, organizations, schools, NGOs are connected, are in network. So exchange of information is happening, and that through that the quicker response to the young people's needs are possible. Also very important that the city would acknowledge youth workers and youth organizations as those that are providing those services. No? So instead of, even though youth organizations would be a private entities, they're in a connection and are recognized by the municipality that they are doing part of the job that municipality should. City supporting youth initiatives or providing us structures, providing us schemes for youth activities is all in that dimension. In the publication, you will also find the concrete full list of criteria and standards that we propose, that of course are not full and exhausting the topic. This is something that we found in our practices, in our experiences, in our organizations. So this is something that we recommend as an example. But the general spirit of this publication is that municipality should work those things out together with their stakeholders in the city, with youth organizations, with young people and other entity stakeholders, to find out their own set of criteria, so that it is adjusted to the locality, to the local context, to the culture, to historical conditions, and all that. Taking the list as examples or as a good practice or as a guidance orientation, and taking also maybe inspiration from the good practices that we provided in the publication. So for each dimension, we have at least one good practice of a concrete activity or concrete program that is functioning, so that it can serve as an inspiration.